Not according to the post office.
Where you are.
Good evening and welcome to the October 31st, 2018 meeting of the Falmouth Conservation Commission. We're called to order. First order of business tonight is to vote the minutes of October 24th. Anybody read the minutes?
I did review the minutes. I didn't have any comments. I would move to accept them as written.
Thank you.
May I, before we do it, do you have them with you? Does somebody have them?
I think I do.
I think I have
I
them.
think there was one
'Cause I
error.
thought there was one thing at the end.
Me too.
Towards the end, right?
Yes, yep.
I'm not sure, I didn't keep them because I didn't see it.
Not the order of conditions, there was something else I saw.
It was before the order of conditions.
Nope, I don't have them.
Right,
Thought I did.
Gary had them. Oh, I know what it was. On page 7, it was the order of conditions. I mean, that was the one that I saw. It was talking about the dock at Madeline Road,
Right.
and it said, we can condition the height to be in agreement with DMF, and I said it already, I think I said it already is, and then it says there's a 50% gradient. Well, what I would have said is, they're using 50% light penetrating,
I see, right.
so.
The 50% gradient would be steep.
Yes.
It was only a typo.
And with that, with those changes, with your motion.
Okay, thank you.
All right, do we have a second? Thank you, Maureen. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous, so moved. All right, next, request for determination
That's,
of,
can I have those edits?
Yeah.
Sorry, Mary.
that's all right.
It's okay, we can go on.
Request for determination of applicability.
Got it.
Kara Pernice, 158 Antler Shore Drive, East Falmouth, Massachusetts, for permission to pump, fill, and abandon existing septic system and upgrade to a Title V system.
Yes, Madam Chairman, the staff is recommending a -2 under the state and the bylaw with the resource area boundaries not confirmed.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or comments from the board? Anything from the public? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous, so moved. Next, Tim and Frank Skelly, 258 Edgewater Drive East, East Falmouth, Massachusetts, for permission to pump, fill, and abandon existing septic system and upgrade to a Title V system.
Again, Madam Chairman, we are recommending a -2 under the state and the bylaw with the resource area boundaries not confirmed.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions from the board? Any questions from the public? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous, so moved. Lori Lucerian, 256 Alder Lane, North Falmouth, Massachusetts, for permission to vista prune according to FWR 10-18-10B.
Yes, Madam Chairman, when Brendan went out to the field to review the project, it was misclassified as a vista pruning. It's just basically invasive maintenance within the mitigation plantings and along the wall. The board had recently approved the reconstruction of that wall on this property. They got it off the association's property, and the invasives are kind of overtaking the mitigation plantings. So it's not vista pruning.
All right.
Just with that clarification, we are recommending a -2 under the state and the bylaw with the resource area boundaries not confirmed.
So moved.
Second.
All right, any questions from the board? Anything from the public? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous, so moved. Falmouth Pier 37, Inc., 64 Scranton Avenue, Falmouth, Massachusetts, for permission to remove asphalt in working forklift areas and to replace with reinforced concrete.
Yes, Madam Chairman, we are recommending a -2 under the state and the bylaw with the resource area boundaries not confirmed.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions from the board?
I just had one question.
Sure.
Did they have, if I remember the old one, was there some kind of runoff retention? So that if there was any runoff, it was, didn't they along the bulkhead, they had gravel or something?
That's the bulkhead. This is in the area right next to the boat ramp, so
Oh,
they
okay.
are taking erosion control measures
Okay,
near
perfect.
the boat ramp. It has to do with the
The fork,
purchase of a new forklift
yeah,
and
the boat lift
a
thing.
weight.
Okay, thank you.
All right, anything else on the board? Anything from the public? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, unanimous, so moved. Next, we have requests for hearings under a notice of intent, and before getting down to the specifics, I believe we have 2 continuances. Jen?
Actually, we have 3, Madam Chairman.
Oh,
123 Shorewood is requesting so you want to read them?
yes, please. Oh, I'll read that, yes, okay.
Yeah.
Augustine Santola, 123 Shorewood Drive, East Falmouth, Massachusetts, for permission to remove portion of the existing licensed pier, replaced with the construction, licensing, and maintenance of a new private residential pier.
Yes, Madam Chairman, they are requesting a continuance until November 28th.
So moved.
Second.
28?
Yep.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, unanimous, so moved.
And then the 2 Point Road ones are being continued.
Until,
November 7th.
all right.
At the request of the applicant, they'll be
Well, she
continued.
hasn't read them yet.
Oh, shit.
Louis Falcone, 31 Point Road, Falmouth, Massachusetts, for permission to raise and rebuild the existing single-family house, install Title V septic system, and all associated clearing, excavating, grading, landscaping, and utilities. And the other NOI from the same applicant, same property, Louis Falcone, 31 Point Road, for permission to reconstruct a coastal revetment, construct stairs on the coastal bank, and remove invasive vegetation, and replace it with native woody shrubs and grasses.
Yes, Madam Chairman, they are requesting a continuance for both projects until November 7th.
So moved.
Second?
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, unanimous, so moved. All right, so that leaves us with 1 request for a hearing under a notice of intent this evening. All hearings of the Falmouth Conservation Commission are held simultaneously under the authorities of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw. Although a single decision of the commission is issued, it represents a separate decision under each authority. So, first and only, we have Stephen and Ann Sherman, 28 Nichols Road, East Falmouth, Massachusetts, for permission to construct an addition, install an upgraded septic system, remove existing shed and retaining wall, install new retaining wall, and all associated clearing, excavating, grading, utilities, and landscaping. Good evening, Matt.
Good evening, Madam Chairman. For the record, Matt Costa, Cape and Islands Engineering, representing the applicant. We're here tonight under a notice of intent application requesting permission to construct an addition to the existing dwelling. I think most of you were here for the last time this project was before you, earlier this year, or maybe it was last year. Time flies, but it wasn't too long ago. Just quickly running through it, your resource areas for this project include land under the ocean, coastal beach, salt marsh, coastal bank, BVW, and land subject to coastal storm flowage, in particular velocity zone. We've shown all the resource areas on the plan and the associated buffers to them. So in total, what we're proposing here is an addition and the installation of a 3-bedroom Title V septic system, and that's in addition to the existing septic system that's on the property. We're also proposing to remove the existing shed and to install some trees and plantings as mitigation for the proposed addition. The septic system is located in the upper right-hand corner. I'll try to use this mouse best I can, right in this area. This is the driveway area right here. See that all right?
Great.
There's a stone driveway in this area. There's some plants close to the septic system that are going to be relocated while the system's installed and then put back in place. There's the septic tank in this area, and that leads over to the proposed addition. You see the addition is in a brown tan color. This is a revision from the addition that we had originally proposed. There's the 3 large oak trees right here in this area. This addition is smaller than the previous addition, and it's tighter up against the house. It will be a full 2-story addition. There won't be a walk-through underneath. So they tried to maximize the space that's there. We're showing that there's 2 of the large oak trees that are gonna come down, and in place of those, we've shown mitigation trees, 4 of them, along this property line over here, as close to the resource areas as possible, and another 3 trees up over in this area, on this side of the property. Now, the idea and what they're going to try to do is to save this tree. They only need to take 1 definitely. This one, they're gonna try to save. It's really close. It might not make it. We're showing that it's gonna be removed. What the applicant would like is that if this tree is able to be saved, that these mitigation trees over here are, the 3 of them, 1, 2, 3, aren't planted. So those trees are being proposed for that second tree. The caliper per inches for the other tree are taken care of with the trees that are being proposed here. So we know we're gonna have to take this tree, so we're gonna mitigate for it down here with those trees. And then if we gotta take the second tree, then I'll put 3 more trees up in this area. These trees are in the Zone A. All of the proposed mitigation will be in the Zone A. We've shown the mitigation calculations for the proposed addition for Zone A. We did that breakdown for you in the calculation table. It does compute required, pardon me, mitigation planting area of 919 square feet. We're proposing 1,020 square feet, and that's in this area that's in green along the southwest property line. That shed that's there will be taken out, and that will be converted to mitigation area. So this mitigation's located as close as possible to the BVW and the salt marsh, which we believe is in keeping with the regulations. We're also proposing some dry wells to recharge the stormwater runoff around the proposed addition. That's really it in a nutshell. We believe the project meets all applicable performance standards as we have articulated in our narrative, and we respectfully request you issue an order of conditions. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Matt. Kevin?
No, I'm pretty sure I have the concept. It's just whether all of the actual measurements work out in the field.
Okay.
The measurements of the addition, or?
No, I can see where the addition is smaller than the previous proposal. But I guess I could live with this. But for some reason, I struggle with why it is that that second tree, much as I would like it to survive, is really close. And, you know, from the stakes and everything, when you visualize constructing the addition, I'm not so certain it would even be a good idea to have it there. You know, if anything happens with that tree, it'll go right on the addition. And having that for the 3, as a trade-off for those 3 trees as mitigation, okay. I could live with that. Sorry to ramble.
No, that's fine, that's fine. Maureen?
Couple things, Matt. There's nothing for the, there's no septic plan.
Jen,
The septic details, we do on a detail sheet for the Board of Health with all the elevations and stuff. This is showing you the horizontal location, which has got all the setbacks to it.
Yeah, but usually we like to have that, only because then it shows us what soils are, which also helps us to know what plants are, their survivability, if it's clay, how your dry wells are gonna work. I mean, that soil test tells us a lot, not just the septic, but what you're, for your planting. So, it is in our jurisdiction, we usually always have that. So if you could just, in the future, make sure we have the septic plan with it, because that's what we always have. Number 2, the caliper inches that you're taking out are 38 inches. If that tree doesn't live, and I'm assuming by the way you've made this plan, that you're figuring it's not gonna live. So, and you're giving us back 32 inches. So I just wanna know if that is enough.
How many inches back?
They're taking out, well, they know they're taking out definitely 20, but then the 18-inch one is, they're not sure, that's up in the air. And then they're gonna give us 32 inches back, because the other 3 aren't gonna get planted unless the one dies, am I correct?
Correct.
Right.
Right.
So you'll be
these are
20?
These are 3 to 4 diameter trees. So, I mean, you know, you buy the tree from the nursery, you're gonna say, give me 3 to 4. Actually, it's
Right,
probably
caliper.
gonna be for
Yeah.
the height, but it's gonna be somewhere between 3 and somewhere between 4, maybe a little more. So that's why I put it as 3 to 4.
For the cupolas.
For the,
For the
yeah,
cupolas.
yeah.
Yep, so even if it's 4, it's only 16 inches. So, anyway, that's one question. And then on the aerial, on page 15 of your narrative, you show a Google Earth aerial from 2017, and it doesn't, what's out in the field, as far as the dock goes and what's licensed, isn't it all alike? Is there a reason for that?
I think we addressed that last time with the jet boat, jet ski, that was removed.
Okay, so it's gone?
Yeah, you were talking about there were pipes, if I remember correctly.
Well, I'm just looking at the picture of the,
There were salt marsh pipe things, and then there was a jet ski
the ramp.
float
Ramp.
ramp that was attached.
And there's 2 additional floats that are attached in your aerial. You've got the jet ski floats on one side,
And then you've got
2
2 other extra
other
floats on the other side.
Okay, I mean, well, his dock has to be
Yeah.
compliant, so
But
that
I,
was a 2017
Don't
aerial.
remember all of them.
Yeah.
I just remember it as being bigger
then what's there?
than
What's
what's here.
Here.
Yeah.
I would just look into that and make sure that, I mean, unfortunately, a lot of people are taking out floats right now, so, because that's the time of year.
Yeah, I
Um,
don't think anything's there right now,
I know, there isn't.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'll double check with him on this, but I think.
And I
we-
didn't see anything stored there, so, you know, in the uplands, they probably stored at a
Oh,
marina
yeah,
or
yeah.
something.
Right. There's no
All right,
room.
well, we'll just put a finding that the dock has to be in compliance with the license for the existing dock that's on this plan, not the aerial. And that being said, I think those were, let me just double check my sheet here. Oh, is everything still in compliance, Jen? What was the superseding for?
The superseding was for the last proposed addition. Basically, the applicant was appealing the conditions of having the trees planted between the structure and the revetment.
So that has been stayed, so that case is stayed at the moment, put on pause,
Mm-hmm.
and if this goes through, then this is what will be built.
Okay. All right, that's one question, and then the next question is the shed, Jen. Again, my memory on all these things, was that a legal shed?
The shed was brought on the property, but it was on stone area that was there. That we did resolve that afterwards, that was stone area where the shed was.
Okay.
He put the property on the shed without a permit. It didn't need a building permit or anything like that, but he didn't have a conservation permit, so that's why it's coming out.
Okay, and there's no because it was on stone, that's why you're not giving us any mitigation for that shed?
Correct.
Okay, that's all I want to know. Thank you.
Jen, did you want to interject something?
I just want to say that I really don't believe that 18-inch oak is going to survive.
Yeah.
You can't build the addition with it there. They're going to damage the root systems. Even if they do manage to save it during construction, it's going to eventually die a slow death, and it'll have to come down. So if this is the proposal, then I would caution this board to review the proposal as this tree is coming down, because it will
Right.
not survive.
How I would
I
look
want to
at
be
it.
clear. I'm not saying the tree is going to survive. We're
No, I know,
showing, we're
Matt, I
showing
know.
it.
You're just
Yeah.
saying if it does, we wanna, but like, what I'm saying is if they don't manage to destroy it to the point where it needs to come down during construction, I am not going to accept that, oh, well, look, the tree's still standing, we don't have to plant the 3 oaks, and then in 2 years, we're getting calls that this tree is dying, it's a hazard to their house, and everything like that. So I would just present it as this tree will be coming down.
Right.
'Cause it's just,
That will,
that's what will happen.
that's a presumption that I would say for that. I mean, it would be a miracle if it did live. Which again then brings me to the
It's too close to
oaks.
the house.
It's too close to the house, and they're gonna have to prune it up and,
Yeah.
you know,
I mean, you're talking from the center of that tree to the addition less than 10 feet.
and the canopy is bigger than that. The canopy's over the addition, actually, if you looked up. Which then brings me to the plantings are supposed to be closest to the resource. So again, the two closer to the bank, but the one that's further, it's actually further back than the tree that you're removing. So you might want to move that one somewhere else, other than that.
It's in the zone A. I kept it in the zone A. You're talking about the three trees?
Oaks.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
all,
Okay.
They are in the,
Okay.
he's saying they're all made of
Okay.
the salt marsh.
All right, that's all, thank you.
thank you. Betsy?
I thought it was clearly presented. I
Thank
have
you.
no question.
Mark?
I guess my only comment is if we do have to lose, if we do decide presume that oak will go down, I think putting in 3 white oaks is great. I think it'll give a more breadth of foliage cover than there presently is there, and the remaining oak will just be just fine, I think. Even though we don't
Yeah,
get,
given a few-
officially-
Given a few years, it's gonna be better
it is,
than,
even though officially we only get, 18 inches instead of 24 inches, we end up with a much better situation, I think.
It's often the case that it's worse outcome for us than that anyway.
Okay.
All set?
That's all.
Steve?
I think this is a better proposal. I think the neighbors will be happy, and happy neighbors make happy neighbors.
A lot of wisdom in that.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
Yes, I agree that it's an improved proposal, so that's good.
make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Second.
Anything else from the board? Anything from the public? All those in favor of closing the hearing say aye.
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 Opposed? Unanimous? So moved.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you,
Thank
Matt.
you.
Thank you.
All right. Guess we need, okay. Continued request for a certificate of compliance. Brendan Zaltis et al., lots 4 to 11, Pondwood Place and Pierce Place. Are we ready with this one?
We're still kicking that can down the road, Madam
Wow.
Wow.
Chair.
Wow.
So we will reach out to Mr. Manganello again.
Okay, I guess we need another date.
I mean, we could kick it down the road to the 7th, and then if they don't, it'll be the 28th. So take your pick, the 7th or the 28th.
How about the 28th? The 7th is kind of full.
Okay.
Or not that that matters much in this case, but
Right.
Does it matter to them?
Okay, that's fine.
All right.
At the request of the applicant, I move to continue this to November 28th.
So moved.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, unanimous, so moved. Next, we have enforcement hearings. First, David Howe, 0 Vineyard Street, map 45-02-000-479, Falmouth, Massachusetts, for violations of the order of conditions, specifically special conditions 8, 9, 12, 18, and 19, including the unpermitted cutting of restoration plantings in accordance or in violation of DEP 254265.
Madam Chairman, Mr. Howe has asked for a continuance until November 7th.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, unanimous, so moved.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
Where's Vineyard Street?
That's the-
Bridge Street,
Down by Bridge Street.
Right, Bridge Street down,
down that way.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
this is where there was a lot of dune
Oh, where they were gonna, yep.
and removal of plantings on the dune and that kind of thing.
Yeah, the one that we were concerned that they were gonna rip it all out.
Yes.
Obviously, something
And-
happened,
Yes,
ripped out.
it's been tended to, much more than a dune should be tended to. Next, we need Mr. McGrath.
Yep, I'll go get him,
Thank you.
but I'm gonna go before Mr. McGrath.
Wasn't that the one that we had?
Yeah.
It was
Want a little red pen to put X's next to the article off?
Marie Hickey.
Yes.
Hmm.
There,
That's
that
good.
one. That's the one I want.
So what do you got down?
It says above Big
Did
TV.
you-
That's
You,
Three of them go down.
Yeah, they might have put one down too many.
she does. She's a horticulturist. She should know.
No, I want that.
Did you hear the RFP, it's a moot point regarding herbicides, because it wasn't in the RFP, that he couldn't use them, so we can't tell him he can't. And he uses drip dispersal Roundup on all his corn. He could sue us if we tell him he can't use herbicides, even though
Because it wasn't
in the RFP.
it had.
So don't eat his corn.
Right.
Drip dispersal Roundup on all the roads, honest to God. You and Wade, people are dying of cancer.
My dad said, my dad was a doctor in the 50s. He said, mark my word, the increase in connective tissue diseases,
Okay,
lymphomas.
I'm not doing you yet, Mike. Okay.
Does this
So-
presentation have audio?
This is the enforcement
Oh,
hearing.
I
for-
haven't read it yet, Jen.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mary.
That's all right. 152 Penzance Road, Woods Hole, Massachusetts, for clearing and altering wetland resource area and in buffer to resource areas as defined in FWR 10.00 and 310 CMR 10.00.
Okay, so when the staff went out to 160 to check on the extension request last week, we noticed some alterations were done on 152. The order of conditions specifically stated that no work should be done on any portion of the project until the restoration portion of the project was completed. So I'll just show you a few aerials. This is what the site looked like, so it's right here. This is the wetland, remember this is the little area of wetland they wanted to make parking and then replicate over in this area. Okay, so this is from 2015. See if I can pop over. This is the, no. Well, and this is 2016, so it's still very vegetated. And then this is the 2018 aerial in which you can see there's work being done. The house has been completely renovated inside and on the outside. And you can clearly see that this area is being altered, and the shed is a good indicator, and I'll show you why. So bear with me, because I'm still trying to figure out how to use this thing. If we look at the plan that was submitted for this, sorry. Oh, I think he just screenshotted it. Why isn't it letting me move it? Well, this area right here, you can see the wetland line. So the yellow is the wetland line. Pay close attention to that shed. And we'll go back to my 18 aerial. So there's that. These are just some of the photos back when we were out there in 2015 for the original project. This was along the water. This was on the side of the house. This is the trees. There's our truck. Notice this, all of that vegetation right there. That's Bob Shea, who came out in the field with us that day. And then again, that vegetation is no longer there. So then we go to, excuse me, back to my thing. What am I doing wrong here? Oh, okay. We have after. So here are some of the photos of what it looks like now. Notice that all that vegetation is gone, that vegetation is gone. Again, the renovation was supposed to be done after the wetland restoration, which is, we did meet out there this week, and it is hopefully progressing after we met out there. Some more images. Of the house. And, all right, where's the one I'm looking for? Okay. So, these stakes right here are that wetland line. So your wetland is this way. All of the area over here, where this privet hedge was over here, they've relocated it, filled that wetland, relocated it, made it part of the lawn. And if you go out there and walk down that little grass path, you could absolutely see the drop in into the wetland. So when we went out in the field, it was dramatic, and Holmes and McGrath went out and staked the wetland line so we could figure out where it was. And then more just shots of there's more of the wetland line. I'm gonna sneeze, excuse me. Oh, maybe not. That privet hedge earlier was not there. You saw all the other vegetation. And that's what it looks like along the road, where before you saw more of the vegetation. Oh, sorry. Mike is going to present his plan. You do have a copy of Mr. McGrath's narrative, right, Mike? It's a short narrative, and a plan. I'm just going to highlight some of Mike's plan, and then he can go back to it. So if you can follow along, this is the plan you have in front of you from Mike, and then we quickly just colored up some of the discrepancies. So the greenery is expanding footprints from the original plan on 162. The pink was the existing hedge that's there today, right? So that's in the wetland, remember? That orange part is where they're proposing to relocate that hedge. And the green is proposed mitigation. Remember, this whole hedge is vegetated. So although this is a good start to a restoration mitigation plan, there does need to be some modifications done to that. They will be working on site next week. We have an excavator. George Patello will be doing the excavation for the wetland restoration under the direction of LEC. So it is a good time to get in there and fix this wetland issue as well. So now, that's all I have to say. I'm just showing you what we observed while we were out there. And Mike, I will open your, as I figure out how to close all these. And then I will open your thing up. Close all tabs. How about that? All right. Here you go, Mike. Which one do you want? Your existing conditions or the existing conditions?
They
Okay.
wanna show all the things that weren't permitted.
I don't know how to rotate this one.
Go to view,
Full screen?
rotate, there's a rotate there.
Up the top.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, there you go.
I thought I was bad on the computer.
Oh, no, I'm horrible. Why do you think I bring Brendan with me?
My name is Michael McGrath. I'm a registered engineer and professional land surveyor. And we came tonight hoping that, well, after a quick discussion with Jen through LEC, that it was good to come in with a plan because there's not that much time left seasonally, and perhaps we can get the altered wetland restored. So what I did was I found a existing conditions plan 2014, and basically it shows the house and the wetland. There were paths. The paths have been there for years, and
Those are all mine on the bottom, Mike, sorry.
Yeah, I understand. So what I did is I filed a narrative in the form of a letter, and what this does is that if you look at this, the orange slashes that are there are the difference between, well, basically it's the wetland stakes you saw on the ground and the back of the fill. So I've labeled that as wetland restoration. I've also, when we did, now, we've done this plan in a hurry, and what we pointed out, there was we calculated the increase in impervious compared to the old survey, and we've been told there's a mistake in it, in that the shed has never been rebuilt, and if you go to the site, there's the shed is very old, so we've made an error in the location of that shed, and I will fix it. It means that there's not as much mitigation needed. In the letter, I say that what we do is we calculate impervious area before and after, and we said there was an increase of 470 square feet, including 184 square feet underneath the roof line. I did give 12 copies of this plan to the commission for you to have, so if
They have it in front of them. Mike.
they have it in front of them. And if you go to the site, that's a cantilever roof, and there's lawn underneath it, and the lawn seems to be unaffected. But I thought it was better to be conservative on the calculation of the impervious area. Included that, even though if you go to the site, you would wonder if it's really impervious, even though it's got a roof under it. The grass seems to be growing quite well. And the bottom line is we show an increase of 477 square feet. It'll be slightly less because the shed's not calculated right. So underneath your regulations, we would need to have 1,431 square feet of mitigation plants. And what we're proposing to do is not only, well, obviously we have to restore the wetlands, but we're also going to fill in the path with the appropriate plants. And that's a total of 1,615 square feet. In the letter, it also identifies that down in here, there's now more grass on, I'm not, there's more grass on the shoulder than there was before. And so I've taken that area of plants and I've put it up against the, where it says restoration 75 square feet. That's the area we calculated to be missing vegetation at that corner. And then I label restoration parallel with the seawall of 220 square feet. And that was the difference between where the boundary was, of the vegetation was before and after. There's a missing tree that's on the plan, it's labeled stump. It went down in one of the storms or broke in one of the storms, and it has not been as yet replaced. But in any case, so I think that this is a good start as far as the loss of how to approach this. LEC is involved in the restoration of the wetland across the driveway, and they have told me that they can have the planting plan ready by next Monday at 4 o'clock. So they will be designing the restoration of the wetland. And so in the letter is a commitment to have a detailed planting plan by Tuesday, November 6th to close the business. The only other thing, there's slight changes. The driveway was altered by moving it slightly. They narrowed it down, and so there's more impervious area towards the wetland and less towards Woods Hole. So that's explained in the letter, and the bottom line is that we hope that if we can straighten out some of the details, that perhaps most of this wetland can be restored this month, since they're working next door, and it obviously would make sense to get this done. I know that Jennifer gave a reaction to my staff today that was not very positive about the plan, but the plan's the first step in any case. So I'm here to answer questions about the plans that we filed. Oh, I'm sorry.
Chip Nyland, representing the applicant. A couple of general comments. Enforcement discussions are never enjoying for me to come down and to talk about, but there are a couple of principles I think I want to just leave with the commission. As soon as Jen brought it to our attention, the work that took place was something that Michael didn't know about. As soon as she brought it to his attention, it was very clear in terms of the severity of the violation in her mind, and we responded immediately. Michael responded immediately, not me. He contacted the client to find out what had happened, and then took a lot of time this week to explain, by looking at all of the documents, what was there before and what's there now, and explain to the client that what had been done was not authorized and was a violation. He was then told by the client, and I was part of that, to restore it and to get it right and to do it immediately. So, he's contacted LEC, and I want to let, I've been involved in lots of enforcement cases throughout the Commonwealth, and in this instance, it wasn't a question of delaying and waiting. I mean, they understood the severity of it, even though we weren't involved in it, and want to make sure that the commission knows, and that's why the restoration plan may not have been engineered or put together in the best way, because it was in response to the severity of the violation that we wanted to make sure we got something in front of you immediately. And it's something that the client is committed to doing the right way, and that we can work through that. So I think those are just the general sentiments, that we consider this to be very serious. We understand that, and we want to get this thing done the right way, and we're willing to start the work and get it done. LEC is going to give us a planting plan. If we can get that approved and get some things working, we're ready, willing, and able to do that.
Thank you, Mr. Nyland. Jen?
Yes, Madam Chairman. Like I said when I was presenting, Holmes and McGrath did stake the wetland line when they found out that we had an issue with the site, so that was helpful to kind of visualize it, so they did jump on it. Some of the issues that the staff has with the plan, is the privet hedge. So I know Mike said it had been there before. They relocated it, now they're gonna move it back. I think there's something that is better suited to that area than a privet hedge. Also, there's a lot of fill on that site from where that wetland was, and so LEC did test bits across the way, so those will have to be done on this side too, just to, so they can understand how much soil needs to be excavated. The board can discuss the landing and the driveway moving closer than that present primary structure, and that's not allowed in your regulations. And just the removal of the more natural vegetation along the driveway, we would like to see put back, as opposed to the privet hedge that's basically running down the wetland, you know, and wrapping around the shed and then wrapping down the driveway. So we'd like to see something other than the privet hedge. I mean, I think those are just the things we pointed out. Privet hedge, moving closer, possibly whether the board would accept the planting of the wetland paths as opposed to mitigation for the increase in structure, but that is gonna be up to the board. And, Mike, are you saying and committing that you'll have this executed by November 30th when the other one is required? When the other project is required to be completed?
Do you mean 160?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I keep thinking, when Jen discovered this, she called me quite irate, and she kept, the discussions on her part were heated, and the discussion on my part is, excuse me, I don't do work, just ask my wife. So the commitment for November 30th, I haven't talked to LEC about that, but the goal was, LEC actually said you can plant in December, or as long as the weather's warm. So I can't make that commitment myself, to be blunt.
Okay.
Remember, I don't do work. So
We all know.
what I wanted to do was, the owner says that there were privet hedges, and what I've done is I have some aerial photographs, and if you look at them clearly, you could see that there was, and I can give you a photograph, that there were 2 privet hedges with a path in between, so I'd like to.
Yeah, where is that, Mike?
They're approximately in here. In fact, one of the wetland flags was in between the 2 hedges.
Yeah, I know that, I saw that.
What happened here was, during the early 1990s, it turns out there was no license for the seawall, of course. And so we applied for an amnesty license, and when we went back and looked at it, this turned out to be shown on the original Penzance plan as just a peninsula. So we ended up having to spend extra time and money trying to figure out where mean high water was, and we did with a combination of soil testing and graphics from both maps and plans. And so there was an awful lot of exploration of the soils, and at the same time, there had been an attempt to build an addition. So the wetland was based on soil conditions, especially around the old hedges. So it didn't look like a wetland. So, but I will give you copies.
Thank you.
And you can see that there is, I can see the picture too.
Mike, did the privet hedge at that time wrap around the shed, around that driveway area wetland, and then down the driveway? You can't say it did, because I just showed them pictures that it did.
Normally, we do a lot more
Investigate.
quality control, but I was in such a hurry. I have other projects, so I thought it
Okay.
tantamount to get something before you. And so there were a lot more hedges there than there are. And I have some photographic inventories, so I can document that. And I'm assuming we can continue this to a date certain, so I can
14, 15.
I can correct the shed, and perhaps, under the existing order, you could allow the restoration to start if we get to a point where you're comfortable with it. So I'd be happy to answer any other technical questions concerning this property.
Mike, I have I'm a little confused about what you've said about the shed. Is it a matter of it's not in the right location, or it shouldn't be there anymore at all?
The shed has been continuously in there, and there's been a shed continuously there. One of my employees told me the shed had been replaced, and so the shed appeared to be bigger in the plan. It turns out they did two of the observations were indirect, so I need to go back and find the actual measurements that we did in the 90s or the early 2000s. And if it's the same, then I made a mistake, or my firm made a mistake saying the shed was bigger. When you go and look at it, it's a little tiny old shed. I have a photograph if you want to look at it.
If you
I'm
look
just
at-
trying to understand
That would be
Whether-
a blunder.
what the error on that is that I'm looking at. It's too large, is that what you're saying?
It's depicted to be larger than it is.
Yeah, okay.
There's an observation that they can do that's indirect. We now don't do surveying the way you used to. We actually have a thing that looks like a saucer upside down, and it's on a pole, and if they don't have good sky coverage, they can actually tilt and offset it. And it appears they tilted and offsetted this, and it didn't get corrected when they do the plan. So it's a blunder.
The shed looks the same in all the aerials.
Okay,
So-
I just want to know, relative to what we're looking at, what's the issue? And now I understand. And I have one other question, very different question. In terms, you don't have to like name names and get real detailed, but in terms of site management, how this happened, particularly how the house got built before it was supposed to, and how is that going to, well, set aside building of the house, I guess, but how is that situation going to be rectified from here forward? I mean, is there somebody, did they misread the order? What happened?
I don't know. I'll be blunt. I don't know how it happened.
Can I expand on that a little bit?
Yes.
So Mike, you said that you talked to the owner and you found out, by the way, I know neither of you actually put this fill in here, and I appreciate you trying to deal with this problem. You said you talked to the owner and they explained what the sequence of events was. I would like to know who put the fill in.
That's a good question.
I do not
I
know.
know you didn't do it.
No. I will find out.
And I am not inclined to have any privet be allowed here. The choice of whoever did this work was to move the privet to a wetland, to put fill in a wetland and move the privet to that fill. So as far as I'm concerned, that can all be removed. And if you want some sort of a buffering plant here, it can be a native plant.
Well, my focus was, we need to create a boundary that everybody understands is the wetland.
I
So-
couldn't agree more.
And
Bayberry.
there are,
Yeah,
I
bayberry
mean,
and
we're
a,
taking privet out. I just thought we could put it right back in the
well,
same
I'd
place.
much prefer to have a native plant. I mean, I think you've gone beyond the point with this. It's not
I
My
understand.
understanding is the owner of this is also the owner of the work where we're doing a restoration, is that correct? Am I correct in that?
There's a different trust.
They're in two different trusts.
Trusts.
Isn't it the same as Black Beach too?
So I don't know who the
That's a
beneficiary of the
different
trust are.
Well, the fact is, there's a connection.
Yeah,
They were
yes,
tied to one order.
Yeah, this was
Tied
one
together.
order.
yes.
And so I appreciate the fact that when each of you found out about this, you jumped on it. But I do not appreciate the fact that clearly this is the second time in, the second time out here and in, 20 years, where basically the wetland regulations
Well,
that we ask everybody in town to follow are totally ignored. And that,
I
To the
understand.
extent of filling wetlands twice on
I
these
understand.
properties.
On two different properties.
Yeah, the first one was different in that he did have a plan, unfortunately, it wasn't a current plan, that was given to him when he bought it, that showed only a small wetland when the previous owner had permitted a tennis court. So, but this is different.
well, my suggestion
Order for
is,
12 years.
when you're talking to LEC about a restoration plan, you consider a palette of native plants. I understand that you may want to have, may want to define areas. And one of the ways we do define it is like a split rail fence. I mean, maybe that's something you should think about too.
Understood?
Mary, I just-
Yes, sorry.
I just had one question, Mike. I was looking at I think it's 14, 15, 16 of those photographs that you handed us.
Yes.
I noticed that in 14, the path was quite prominent, like they probably mowed it. The next one, it's disappearing quite a bit, and in the last one, there's only a very small section that you see of the path. So I would just let those paths grow back. It looks like they're already doing it naturally because somebody's not mowing it to the dirt anymore. And that mitigation be used maybe up in the point, where, is that a public dock or a right-of-way, up in the right-of-way end where that point is? That instead of filling the path that looks like it's doing it naturally, and not waste the mitigation in there because it'll grow up, is to put it, up in that corner up in there.
Those wetland paths are very prominent and clear, so it's appropriate to fill them in, it's appropriate to fill them in with the right plants.
The latest aerial there is 2 years old, so I'm not sure what may have happened since.
True, yeah, and I haven't been out there where the paths
I have
really,
2018 era.
Yeah,
yeah,
okay.
can we see the 2018, Mike?
I don't have it.
No,
It's in one of Jen's
Well,
files
Jen
here,
will
she can
has-
call it up.
Oh,
There's a seed bank in it, it'll
You
come
can
back.
watch me
It will
follow
just
the
come
computer again.
in no time, in 2 years.
Look at it, the Coonamessett.
I know.
It comes back. There's
Yeah.
a seed bank.
You mean that?
Yeah, they are more prominent on that picture than in this one.
Mhm.
But again, I mean, nature always wins, so if you just leave them alone, they will grow back.
Excuse me, where are you speaking about moving the,
Um,
can you move the pointer to wherever she was talking about?
Right now, right
Excuse me.
there.
Oh,
Just
okay.
right, nip
Okay.
that off, so
All
it
right.
just,
That's
you
what I
know,
thought, I was just
it's
unsure.
closer to Great Harbor
Am I
and,
correct, Maury?
yes.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, thank you.
And Jen, what is in that half moon, I know it's not part of this project, but what is that? Is that dirt or mulch or, and
This?
by that
In the center
circular
of the,
driveway?
of the
No, in the
turnaround.
center of
The
the
circular driveway, what's on
Rocks,
Great
isn't it?
Harbor?
That,
Oh, I
No,
don't
no,
know.
on
I
the
didn't
other
even
si-
look at that.
On the seawall.
Mike, do you know what's in there, Mike?
On the seawall.
On the
Oh,
seawall.
Between that
On
and
the
the
seawall.
seawall.
What's all that?
Oh, mulch, is it?
No, that's plants.
Okay, well,
They're dead, right?
Yeah,
All right.
yeah,
that's plants.
okay.
They're very pruned plants.
Are those the Rosa rugosa?
Mm-hmm. I think.
There's that much
hang
of
on.
Rosa rugosa, I didn't recall there being quite.
Hang on, guys. I
The
can
depth of-
show
width of it.
you, oh, sorry, Mike. I am worse than you.
Mhm.
So, hang on.
It looks
So,
like a
there it is.
different-
Okay,
Looks like a different place.
there it is.
It is a different.
Well, you can see, again, the lawn, reducing some of that lawn, so it's not, because I'm sure if they fill wetlands, they're probably fertilizing the lawn.
So that's what you're looking at right there, guys?
Have you ever been there and the lawn service is not that there?
Yeah. So, if we could just reduce some of it to help, Great Harbor and the runoff. I know there's a seawall there, but it still goes down through. I just think that the paths, I've dealt with enough areas where the paths do, after 2 to 3 years, they grow right back in. But that's just my,
Well, if you consider that how expensive this is to give up that land I mean, he clearly will give this up, and I think that's an appropriate activity versus taking, a huge amount of his usable space over in this area. And it would be a very large area.
Mike? It's appropriate. Well, I don't particularly find it appropriate to fill in a wetland,
I-
so I'm
I'm
not.
trying to describe the location of mitigation plans.
Well, you
And
don't
I
have to
think-
put it in that corner, you can put it in front of the seawall.
along the whole front of the seawall.
Maury's point is, if you don't, that area doesn't need to be planted. There's
It'll
a lot of-
revegetate.
There's a lot of seed in that wetland soil that will just
So
revegetate.
If he
Mitigation
puts
would
up
be
there, he'll
better
keep the
used
plants.
elsewhere.
But what I'm saying to you is if you give him, if you say he's gonna put all that in, then he'll leave the plants in place. So I think it's more appropriate to.
What
to
plants?
put
What
the
plants? What plants is he gonna leave in place, Mike?
No, he'll just leave, I meant to say paths in place. So,
Well, he can cut off the entrance to that path. I had a picture of one of, like, where you had the wetland stakes, and there was basically, if you go out there, right around, I think it's shown on your plan, isn't it, Mike? Right around, yeah, wetland flag 6, on your plan, there, you literally go down, and it's grass, and you go down into the wetland. So there is a noticeable grade difference there. But I mean, if you could just plant that entrance where wetland flag 6 is with some bayberry, you'll block the paths anyway, and they'll all grow up. Correct?
That way.
Yep.
How many square feet of extra landings and closer to the resource, Jen?
Closer, I don't know. I don't have that
Okay.
calculation because.
Is it the
like I said,
landing?
We just got this plan late this afternoon, so I don't
Stone
know.
landings, is that what
Yeah,
we're talking about?
yeah. Is it the landing that's,
It says
Toward the-
stone landing near
toward
the
flag
stepping
6?
stone.
It's right here.
yeah, flag 6?
stone
Yeah.
landing
Yeah.
and those stone steps, stepping stones is what Jennifer said to Jeff Johnson today, is, as far as she was concerned, is too close to the,
I said if it's bigger, it might be moving closer to the wetland, which is not allowed.
but we did get, there was always a landing there.
Yeah, there was a landing.
And the previous plan showed the step is up against the building.
So I haven't compared, I haven't had time to look
Okay.
at this one.
So I
and
think after we-
really drill down and look at.
Yeah,
And I don't think Mike's been able to give me the overlay of either plans either. I mean, this was kind of put together at the last
but you get the idea of what we're looking for the restoration, so, and then you're gonna fine tune it.
So I have another question for Mike.
Okay.
So the clients aren't planning to use these these paths anymore?
When I pointed out to him that he had filled the wetland, and this was adverse to everything that the long-term goals here, he said, then I'll give up the paths. So show the paths to be replanted.
Then I'll give up the.
Does anybody at this end of the table have anything? I would like,
Are we voting an enforcement order? Is that what we're here for to do?
That's what the staff is requesting.
Okay, well, I'm gonna put a motion on the table.
I'm not ready.
No,
Well,
but
go
I'm
ahead,
putting
go
on a
ahead.
motion on the table to issue an enforcement order.
But we
Second.
need to figure out how you want this plan.
Right.
But I mean, we
Right.
haven't seen LEC's wetland restoration plan either.
I would also like something submitted in writing having to do with the kind of operational or procedural management of the rest of this project. Who's gonna be in charge of doing what the sequencing's gonna be?
The restoration under 160 is under, like I said, the excavation is being done, Vitello excavation under the direct direction of LEC. So LEC is gonna be on site during the entire excavation of all that soil.
Okay.
Then the plants are gonna be, they're purchasing the plants, ordering the plants, and those will be planted under the general guidance of LEC. They'll go in the morning, give instructions, go in the evening, make sure everything was done correctly.
All right, so this can be part of their responsibility when that's happening?
We discussed it out in the field, at least from an excavation point, they have really good access, they're already mobilized out there, you know,
How are they gonna have access to this, to get the what, the,
they can go right in the driveway. Go right into the driveway.
oh, they're gonna take the privet hedge out and the stepping stones
Shit, you're gonna have to.
and drive along it, because that's only 7 feet from the edge of the wetland
You're
now.
gonna have to. You wanna see the wetland flags again?
Yeah, I think the wetland flags actually are in closer to the house, am I correct?
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
So here we go, everybody, right back to why we like to have 10 feet to the mitigation. Usually not for an enforcement, but if they had the 10 feet, they would have had a little more room to get in there.
Usually it would help to
It's just
avoid
gonna be-
an enforcement.
I mean, they'll have an excavator, and it's only probably 8, maybe 10 feet wide.
Well, I'm more inclined not to rush this part until we know, till LEC does a
I mean, we can
investigation as to how much
continue, I
fill.
mean, Mike,
Yeah,
if
I-
you're saying that LEC's gonna have the plan by November sixth, Tuesday,
Yeah.
we could probably continue until November 7th, and then you can have the narrative that Mary's looking for, and maybe we can sit down early next week and fine tune this plan for something for Wednesday.
Methodology.
I mean, yeah, methodology,
Mhm.
after, okay.
Do you have the soil logs, Mike, you were talking about when you were trying to do the Chapter 91 license?
There you go.
I would have to search
Oh,
for them.
sorry.
They were done by Peter Fletcher and,
Were they really?
yeah,
Oh, wow.
and Paul Lolito. So,
For a different client, for Mrs.
yeah, for an agent of Mrs. Janney, so.
Oops, that,
Yeah, I'm just saying if I had another one. No, they're the wetland flags.
I'll be an excavator.
That's gonna be tight. Well, I mean, it won't be tight, he can get in there, because he's just ripping everything out
Yeah.
and work his way out.
I
It's
mean,
just
we were
getting a
on
truck
site
in
with
there.
him the other day, he said he can do it. I think he can
He can do it.
I don't know what happened. I put this down and it jumped.
Yeah, they'll put
Hit the back
mats
arrow.
down and
Oh.
back on them.
That's all right.
But if it's
Or
fill,
back
it's not stable.
There you go.
Ta-da.
They can do it, it's not hard.
All right,
All right,
So
so,
why don't we continue the matter until November 7th? Mike, we will work with you and LEC, correct, Chip?
Right.
On a fine-tuned mitigation plan.
I hereby
Tomorrow, Mike, maybe we can set
Friday.
Yep, I request a continuance to November 7th.
Second. Yeah,
I
I make a motion, second.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, unanimous, so moved. Thank you, gentlemen.
And now do we vote the enforcement on?
No, we'll
We'll
do
just
it
continue,
next week.
okay.
Do enforcements next week.
Lovely.
4 notices, 1 amendment.
Mr. Nyland? We don't like enforcements any more than you do.
You don't,
We hate
yeah.
them.
They're not fun.
It's the most depressing part of our job.
You know, I was a commissioner for 9 years, so I don't like them either, but I thought that the points needed to be made.
Pardon me?
I thought
Oh,
the points needed to be made.
No, that's
Yes.
fine. No, we
We
appreciate that.
understand, and
Right,
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Chip.
thank you.
yes, thank you both. All right, next, vote order of conditions. Town of Falmouth, care of Ray Jack, 0 and 62 John Parker Road, Falmouth.
This is the continuance of our
River restoration.
river restoration plan. Will probably follow a very similar special conditions as the first part of the restoration. The only difference is we'll probably add some stream crossing special conditions that a DEP likes to see.
Right.
They've already given their,
Yeah.
Yeah, we have the two
Their
time of year
permits.
restrictions.
Yep.
And also the fact that the erosion control barriers should be removed during those restricted periods.
Mm-hmm.
We were all in the quorum, right?
Correct.
So I make a motion to accept as discussed with those special conditions and findings for the time of year. And
And
river
for the stream
crossings.
crossing,
And the
yeah.
stream crossings.
Second?
Thank you. Any other comments or anything to add? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, unanimous, so moved.
So make a motion to adjourn?
second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, unanimous, so moved.
And we do need signatures on the plans.
Alrighty.
On the